Hello, everybody. It is time to talk about a subject that might be difficult to cover in an effective manner, but because there's not great organizational tools out there. But we're talking about gear today, specifically sub gear 12 gear. This ranges from what they call core gear, like the old pit raid gear, the old tank raid gear, which is more like gear 11 gear, Kyrotechs. And then we don't really have to talk too much about like these little gear pieces, like these that you use for bronzium and carbonite circuit boards. You need them when you need them. Most of the time they're piling up. The concern is the relic scraps just as you need it. Farm it specifically. Don't need to be targeting it with shipments or events or anything like that. But just looking at the rhodium heat sinks, it helps us get a good view of a lot of core gear. Most of the stuff in here is what I would define as core gear. The only piece that you can't scrap for a rhodium heat sinks that I would consider core gear are these Mark IV comm links. They weren't in the old pit raid, but they're very prevalently needed. They're needed by, I think, a lot more newer characters need them. They're in fleet battles, though. They're in dark side. There's a lot of different nodes you can get them from. And then just TB, you might get some in those prize boxes, but it's also a great buy with Get One and the raid currency. And the common underlying source for pretty much all this gear is raid 1 currency. That's going to be super important. And the most common pieces you're going to need, or the bane of everyone's existence for years, were Carbantes. And everyone knows when you say Carbantes, it means Mark III Carbantes. I'm an endgame account, and look how many characters still need Carbantes. There are not many gear pieces out there where I'm going to have a whole row of characters painting the bottom of the screen that I need. So these pieces, like the others, you're going to be able to buy them in the raids, the raid store and the guild store for OG currency. That might be a good place to use them. I wouldn't use conquest currency on it. Farming them is also a great option. There's a wide variety of nodes, just normal energy nodes, so you're not going to be able to get in fleet. And you're also going to get some is in this strength gear challenge on Sundays, Mondays, and Thursdays. And believe me, when I was a newer player, I knew what day of the week it was. I was looking forward to refreshing these nodes to get these Carbantes. These other, we'll call them challenge gear pieces, you do need to watch them. You need to make sure you have enough of these Mark IV keyboards, or whatever you want to call them. But I never directly farm them any other way. It's just like, don't scrap too many for bronzium wiring. Keep some in there. Same with these Mark IV droid collars. Mark V droid collars are also another piece of core gear, so you're going to stock up there. Stun cuffs are core gear, but I have tons now because they started dropping them in this challenge specifically. Like, they didn't used to be here. So if you're a newer player struggling for gear, just know you have it pretty good compared to how it used to be. And I know it takes a long time to gear, but it is much faster. This one kind of adds up a little bit, or the need adds up, but I wouldn't call it core gear. And then the stun guns, Mark 7, Mark 5 stun guns. This was the bane of everyone's existence for a long time too. I see a lot of characters I have still need it, but most of my characters are gear 13, so they don't need it anymore. And just to show you how much stun guns and Carbantes are needed, just look at all the times they are used. This is SWGOH showing how many times the Carbante is used. 255 times, 256 times directly, 382 times as stun guns, 104 times in this Mark V balls. But yeah, look, that is like every character pretty much needs these. There are a few that don't. That's 37,100 scrap pieces for every character in the game. Now, usually for most people, that's not a super realistic goal, especially if you're a newer player. Endgame players are there, but you need tons of Carbantes. You need to stack them up. And for the Mark V stun guns, yeah, still the same number, 382. That's used over 500 times. So you're going to need over 25,000 stun guns over the course of your career. This Mark 6 is what they call a Gear 11 finisher, and I'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, stun guns and Carbantes. If you are going out of your way to stock up on something that you don't need immediately, but you just want to be prepared for the future, as far as under sub Gear 11, Gear 12, Carbantes and stun guns are the things you want to stock up on the most. Now I want to take a brief minute to talk about how we used to earn these pieces and how we do it now with the raid system change. So I am looking at the possible rewards for the old pit raid. This on the SWGOH wiki, and since this is an outdated raid, this info is just fine. We get a lot of these core gear, stun cuffs, carbantes, and these 4 pieces. Scanners, this Mark 6 Nubian design tech, Mark 5 furnaces, and Mark 5 droid collars were originally pit raid gear. It was gear that at first you could only get in the pit raid. You couldn't get it anywhere else. And you could farm it with different currencies. But since we're not simming the pit raid anymore, every 2 days, the need for this is shifted to the raid currency. This is honestly kind of a blessing and a curse. So for this core gear like stun guns, you can buy them in large bulk. So 125 here for 2,500 currency. Even at the lowest level of the raid, you're getting a good chunk of this Mark 1 raid currency. So you're going to be able to get that gear, that core gear, pretty quick for like 1 or 2 characters that you're targeting. Also, this old pit raid gear is a little bit cheaper. It's 1120 for 700. So you'd probably get 150 for 2,500 like this, so just a little bit of a better rate. Another good thing to buy here that's also core gear is Mark 3 holo projectors. Let me see if I can find any in here right now. Also the comm links, 800 for 50. That is a pretty good deal. How does that compare to this? 800 for 50. So it's kind of comparable. It would actually be 2,000. So that's a great deal. Another core gear that wasn't pit raid gear are these Mark 8 gold eyeballs, is what people have deemed them. And there's 2 sides of the coin. There's this one and the hollow one. Get them in the same place. Used to be obtained through the hat raid or the heroic AAT tank raid. But this currency is going to be your best friend. Also, you're going to get some of this kind of legacy guild tokens over time. And if you're not farming characters, it's a decent place to buy core gear. It's not the best value. I think the Mark 1 raid currency is great. Also, I would recommend getting Shard Shop, using Shard Shop currency on the core gear. They added this slot up here a while ago. There's a couple slots down here dedicated to that sub-gear 12 gear, so keep an eye out there. I'm not going to be buying this, but if you see like these gold eyeballs or carbantes or stun guns, you're going to be wanted. That's a good use of your Shard Shop currency. Not for endgame you like gear 12, but for early game when there's challenges aren't enough, you use your Shard Shop currency as well. The next category of gear I want to talk about is gear 11 gear, or legacy tank raid gear. And there's not a great organizational way to show it, but I'm going to include in this category Mark 6 thermal detonators, Mark 6 droid collars, the Mark 9 eyeballs, the Mark 4 back-to-gels, these Mark 5 Athcom med packs. You get these in challenges, I believe, but then this hollow piece you gotta buy. And these Mark 9 data pads. This solid piece really piles up. You get it in the challenges. But the other piece, you'll just have to buy once in a while. And it's not like it's super scarce. You get it with a guild store currency, and probably only buy it as needed. You don't really have to target it. It's not the most commonly used piece, but it does fit into that category for me of Gear 11. Gear 10 has it too, pieces. And these Gear 10, Gear 11 gear pieces, especially I think mainly the back-to-gels, Mark 6 droid collars, and the Mark 9 eyeballs, are part of these Gear 11 finisher pieces. These are the pieces they need to be 7-star to apply, and they're really a pain in the neck. I mean, this is probably the worst piece of gear to apply below Gear 12. It's the most annoying because you got a full stun gun, a full golden eyeball, and then 50 Mark 4 back-to-gels. And there's other variants of this one too, but just these really just suck the resources out of you. So kind of a pain to work with. And we've already talked about the core gear, but farming these Gear 10 and Gear 11 pieces, it's kind of touch and go. It is something you might want to dedicate energy directly to, and it's kind of nice because you can farm them both in Fleet and Dark Side, especially for these Mark 4 back-to-gels. I think they're the most common, but the Mark 6 droid collars and Mark 9 eyeballs are up there as well. This is something that's actually fantastic to buy with OG raid currency. Because when I was initially evaluating what to buy in this store, these 2 top slots, I don't know if you're looking at 3 gear pieces across or 4 on your phone, But these top two spots are these Gear 11 pieces. Just the Mark 9 eyeballs, Mark 4 back to gels, and the Mark 6 droid collars. And those are probably the most prevalent you're going to need the most of. I think this is a great value for them comparatively. Because when you go down with the Mark 1 raid currency, they get more expensive compared to like original normal core gear. Mark 4 hollow projectors is a little bit different. So yeah, this Mark 6 droid color salvage, we need 1,295 to get 35. So over about 2,600 just to get 70. And that's a much higher price than those stun guns we talked about. So, and stun guns and stuff, they're a little bit cheaper in the guild currency, original guild currency. It's so confusing. But I think overall, this currency you should probably use on your Gear 11 plus pieces. I wouldn't, well, sometimes I buy them in Shard Shop. There are some slots for those types of pieces. Here we got this Mark 4 hollow projector here. That's the slot where it's going to be, but it's kind of touch and go. There's not super efficient ways to farm them, but they are needed a lot less than the core gear. The core gear you need from like Gear 8 all the way up to Gear 13 almost, because like you need Carbontes and stun guns to get from Gear 12 to Gear 13. But those Gear 11 pieces, less often needed than the core gear. And the last type of gear I want to talk about is everyone's least favorite, Kyrotechs. Kyrotechs are ubiquitous in newer characters. They only started implementing them into the game in about early 19, I think. So think like Darth Revan and after. All characters after that need Kyrotechs to get to Gear 12, except for IG-11 and Queel, I believe. I think those are the only two that don't need Kyrotechs. Then every character needs 100 Kyrotechs to get from Gear 11 or Gear 12 to Gear 13, either the shock prods or the computers, and that's what we'll call them, shock prods or computers. The shock prods are the ones you really want to farm light side 7B specifically. This is the node I've been farming for a while. And I have quite a lot of them, but you're also getting a lot of other good stuff for bronzium wiring, which is another big bottleneck I have a ton right now from farming them up. But yeah, you want to farm that node. The computer node is not quite as good. And then where you want to actually buy them, don't buy them with raid currency. They are available somewhere, but they're not good with the raid currency. What you want to do, you want to use get 3 and get 2 to buy these. So I'll just go ahead and pick that up right now. I would prioritize buying these computers. If you're a lot behind on the shock rods, go ahead and buy those too. They're both the same cost. It's just I like farming these directly with the energy and then buying the computers with the currency. You can also get them with Grand Arena currency, and that's better. So you got Guild Event 2, Guild Event 3, Grand Arena currency. That's mainly it. You also get daily, like the daily rewards for doing all of your daily activities. That box will have Kyrotech in it, so it does add up over time. They also have like this core gear, and just in general, you're going to be, I think you get like, it's not showing, but it's like 3 pieces of Kyrotech. Just do everything you can, even including galactic challenges. You're going to get some gear in there that we've talked about. Just try to get the highest box you can. So this one that I just earned, I'm going to get 5 Kyrotech. And as far as other normal gear, it's up in these boxes. So we got, well, that's Gear 12 here. This one, we got a lot of this old pit gear and then some other random support pieces. Oh no, these are still Gear 12 support pieces. This is the core gear. So this is what they consider to be core gear. Mark 4 Carbontes, not quite as common. Mark 4 stun guns, I don't know why. They've always done this. They've always given us all these Mark 4 stun guns when you don't really need them. But up here, yeah, like I was saying, back to gel is really needed. Like it's one of the most commonly needed pieces. They consider that core gear and they're giving it to you in the Galactic Challenge boxes. Now I don't know how it scales with different boxes. I can't even click on it, but just get as far as you can at the Galactic Challenges. It's nice. It's extra stuff. And then also getting in as good of a TB guild as you can will help get the gear as well. So we got Kyrotechs that's possible to drop. We're always getting some Kyrotechs at the end. Core gear is in there as well, like the stun guns, comm links, and the Gear 11 gear. So it's a lot of different sources you can get for it. And I think Conquest might have some too. Well, they don't give you much, but they give you something like these reward crates. They're going to have a core gear box where you're going to get 30 pieces, which is not too shabby at the end. Let me compare to the max box red crate, which I typically get. I think it's the same. So just try to get up to where you're just going to get some gear there. I mean, shoot past as far as you can Conquest, because this later stuff helps out too, especially the relic materials. But as far as normal gear farming, this game just is a snowball. Everything ties into everything else. Like, you want to do well in everything. I focus on Grand Arena, but I try to win in TW with my guild. We try to do well in TB. I hit Conquest very hard. It's just you want to do everything well, and everything will stack up. And that definitely goes for core gear, gear under gear 12. That's about all I have on gear for newer players, and that's who this is aimed at. Like late game players, like they pretty much know most of this stuff. And I don't know, it's hard to organize thoughts on this. There's so much different gear, so I didn't want to like whip up a whole spreadsheet. That would take like a ton of time, and I'm just trying to share some practical knowledge with you. I hope it did help. If I forgot something, just remind me, let me know. If I ever do another iteration, I'll go back to those comments and figure out what I need to make sure I integrate. But thanks so much for watching. I hope this did help, especially if you're a newer player. And don't forget to like if it did. I appreciate it, guys. I'll see you later.